Hello and welcome back to Build Propulsion Lab at Devoxx UK. Coming live from London, and my next guest is Tim Cools. Welcome to
Tom, though.
Tom. So close.
It's so close, so
So
close.
close, so close.
I get this very often. It's okay.
So
It's
close.
okay.
Tom Cools. Yeah. And Tom is a leader of Belgian Java user group,
Yeah,
which
correct.
is very cool. And I hope, fingers crossed, someday to come and speak at their Jack.
Of course.
And so your topic that you mentioned that you want to talk about is something that is very, very fascinating. And then staying up to date with the IT,
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
industry trends. And this is fascinating because I find it exceedingly harder to do, I guess, because there is more things that are going on, and because
Absolutely.
I'm getting older.
Well, I can't help you with the second part, but the first part is actually something I noticed a lot of developers are struggling with, because especially when you look at the different topics at a conference like Devoxx, there is so much stuff going on. If you don't take a break and you go to every session that you can go to physically, there's so much you'll learn during the day that it just is already overwhelming. I saw a tweet today from someone, I can't remember who it was, but they tweeted out, like, I actually need to move away for like 1 or 2 slots because else my brain is just overloading and I don't have time to practice any of this. So it just becomes too much stuff. And that's something I see not just at conferences, but also in general, where quite a few people are constantly absorbing, but they don't actually take enough time to practice these things and put it into practice.
So what do we do?
So what I have learned is that it is okay to not know everything, because I get a bit the feeling that, to give the best example that I know of, recently I did a job interview with someone, and on their resume it said, I know 8 programming languages. I know Rust, I know JavaScript, I know C#. But as soon as you ask like a bit more advanced question in any of these languages, they fall apart. And that's what I see a lot of people do, is they try to know everything and then they don't go deep enough into a certain subject. What I also see is that people have a tendency to want to learn something, but they don't want to take the intermediate steps to get there. For example, I have an electric guitar at home, and I thought, oh yeah, I buy it, and in like a few weeks' time, I'll be able to play Dragon Force, which of course is the easiest song ever to learn. But I never took the time to do the intermediate steps of learning the chords and doing everything slowly. And I think a lot of people are in love with the idea of knowing a lot of stuff, but they don't see that it takes a lot of effort to slowly build towards that level of expertise that they could get to.
I see it as a trade-off, right? I mean, the person who said they know 8 programming languages, they weren't familiar with any of them deep enough. But the fact that they knew some of it for a wide range of paradigms and different types of languages, I mean, writing in Rust is very different than writing in Java because of a completely different levels of abstractions.
Yeah.
And I would say knowing about both less, I would say maybe better than knowing about one of them very deeply.
Yeah, so one of the things that, so when I teach people to think about code and to learn code in a pretty quick way, I always point them towards the fundamentals. I try to step away from the nitty-gritty details of the language and focus on, yeah, look, this is object-oriented programming. What do we need to know about object-oriented programming? Yeah, maybe some design patterns, and focus on what does it mean to do a design pattern, and then look at that in multiple languages, for example. But I have a strong belief that focusing on fundamentals and things that don't change as much really helps by staying up to date, because if you know certain fundamentals and you look at a new programming paradigm or a new programming language, you have so many things in your toolbox already that you can just basically take out. Oh, but it's exactly the same in this programming language I know. Oh, it's exactly the same as this thing I know. For example, one of the things I was really excited about was test containers. because it's basically what I was scripting myself already. I knew what Docker was, I knew what testing was, I knew that I wanted to start containers during my test, and when I saw the framework, it's like, it took me 5 minutes to realize, oh, so that's how it works. So focusing on fundamentals behind certain frameworks can really help. One of the things that I find interesting in when I talk to students, they're like, yeah, I know Angular and React and Vue. But if you ask them, like, yeah, but what do these things have in common? They can't really put their finger on it. But there's so much in common, these fundamentals, that if they focus a bit more on that, then they have more portable knowledge. The same with domain-driven design, with test-driven design. And I think the design patterns fall in a kind of a special category, because those, if I tell you, this is a singleton pattern, you don't even have to look at the code anymore. You kind of know what it does. Or this is the factory pattern. Just by saying a few words, the entire structure of the code can suddenly be loaded into your brain. And I think that's why
Common vocabulary is very powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good ubiquitous language as well, if you talk to a business owner.
So getting back to our going like very deep or going very broad, there is this concept of T-shaped professionals, right?
Exactly.
Who know a lot about a lot, not who know a little about a lot, and then a lot about a little, right?
Correct.
So that might be a good way to go.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on what kind of person you are as well. Being very deep into one aspect of a certain language. So for example, I really chose Java, and that's my shape. That's where I feel most comfortable. It's really good to have some confidence and to tackle really difficult business problems. It's good to have that thing down, so that when you have a business problem that's difficult, then you can go to your thing that you're already good at. But when you have a simpler business problem, then maybe you can use a language that you're not that familiar with. Because what I really try to avoid is too much cognitive load while trying to do something. And I think a T-shaped profile, having that strong structure where you feel confident in, actually allows you to, it's not a good name, but it's to start making like little T's next to it. Having a one deep structure helps you to create more understanding in the other kind of languages as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But there is also a lot of fear of missing out, like FOMO.
Yeah.
Especially now with the AI. It's obviously. I mean, it's real, right? You all this. We will be automated out of the job. I don't think it's real enough. But at least you need to be able to keep with the technology, because in some point of time the technology will become a standard in our industry, and then people who are not up to date with it will be in a disadvantage. And especially if you are used to be the person who kind of knows it all and being on the bleeding edge and what's not, suddenly other people do other stuff. You are not there, and it's scary. And the trade-off of that is trying to be on the edge all the time makes your knowledge also obsolete very quickly.
Yeah,
and I'll give you one example. So I spent tons of time understanding how to add context to LLMs, all the RAG and all this kind of stuff, right? And I did it. It worked. A week later, OpenAI announced, you know what, you don't need all this knowledge anymore. Because we encapsulated all that, then you just go to this page, you upload your PDFs or whatever, and it will do it for you.
But so some of your knowledge becomes, you say obsolete, but I would say you still have a deeper understanding of what's happening behind the scenes, and that's still valuable. For me, it's sure, it's obsolete, as in you don't really need to know it anymore, but it's useful to know. I like to know how things work behind the scenes.
Oh no, I feel good, and I can throw smart terms in a conversation like vector databases and RAG and no one knows what I'm doing. Well, now everybody knows what I'm talking about. but you get my gist. It makes me sound very smart.
Yeah.
But actually, you know what? I spend this time learning it
Yeah.
while I could spend this time learning something else. The time is not unlimited. Our
No.
brain is not unlimited. Our cognitive resources aren't. So I think there is a very interesting trade-off there as well.
Yeah, and a difficult one to make because we can't predict the future.
Yeah.
I had a huge discussion with one of my colleagues a couple of years ago when I first learned about Docker. I was very excited about it. I tried to explain it to my colleague, and he said, "Yeah, but why would you ever use that?" And he stayed in his denial mode for quite a while until finally he saw everyone around him use Docker, and it was like, "Oh yeah, maybe I should put some time into learning it." I think.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is he probably became the biggest Docker advocate and claimed that he used Docker before anyone even knew what Docker is.
He started using what's it called again? X window or something.
Yeah, yeah.
To host this IntelliJ inside Docker.
Exactly.
So that kind of
that's usually how it works.
Yeah, it's a crazy trade-off to figure out what is going to be important in the future, what isn't. I think conferences are a good sign, a good feeler of what is going to become important or something I should look at. Sometimes even conferences are wrong. Maybe we're all betting on the wrong horse now. We don't know.
Yeah.
And
hear me out. There is a crazy segue. Meetups and user groups are also great for learning about new stuff.
Absolutely. That's why a couple of years ago, the Belgian Java user group kind of stopped. Like I think with COVID, most of them stopped, and I really missed it. So I decided, you know what? If I miss it so much, why don't I start my own? So I started the Antwerp Java user group, which didn't work out because I started it at March 2020. Which was
a jelly timing.
I call myself the winner of the bad timing awards. And then when I tried to start it a bit better again, I talked to Stefan, who's the original owner of the BJUK, and I asked him, "Hey Stefan, can't you help me with the Antwerp Jack?" And he said, "Why would I help you? Why don't you just help us with the BJUK and get that started again?" So I started it a year and a half ago, and we have been having an event every month since. So we've been doing, and so much fun getting people together, different ideas, sometimes very deep, intense conversations about where the future is going with AI. Some people are like, yeah, we're in big trouble. The other people are like, nah, it's not smart enough to do this. So there's, it's quite intense.
Absolutely, yeah, that makes sense. I'm in exactly the same boat. I restarted the Nashville user group after the pandemic, and we're doing it every month. So yeah, very, very familiar situation. I think we covered pretty much the topics that we wanted to talk about. Tom, thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
Appreciate the conversation. I'll see you in the Belgium Jug.
Absolutely, more than welcome.
Or Nashville Jug for that matter.
Sure.
And you all stay tuned for more interviews at Build Propulsion Lab at Devoxx UK. Yeah, here we go. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
See you.